Customers now tell us they're concerned.
There's a suggestion prices could rise, and we're a community trust. Our budget is very, very tight. We can't afford any price rises here.
Learning how to save lives. Should lessons like these be compulsory for all school children?
Good evening. In tonight's sport, we'll have the latest on the injuries ahead of the Six Nations game against England. And Dan Biggar or Sam Davis. This school produced them both, but who should play at number 10?
Good evening. They've been described as some of the most ambitious plans ever made to transform the way healthcare is delivered in South West Wales. Health bosses say a unique collaboration between the two local health boards and Swansea University will tackle the huge pressures facing services. Sticking plaster solutions, they say, won't do anymore. The far-reaching plans are soon to be submitted to the Welsh Government for consideration. Our health correspondent, Owain Clark, has this special report.
After 76 years, you could forgive a building for not looking its best, but would you want to be cared for here? This part of Morriston Hospital is older than the NHS itself, but since then, the hospital's had to grow bit by bit around these wartime corridors. Few could have imagined then some of the things that happen here now.
And you can particularly see on the right-hand side here, we've got an area of peak pressure underneath this bony part of the pelvis.
At the hospital's rehabilitation centre, medical staff and engineers work together to design and build equipment which can help seriously injured patients become mobile. So the NHS can do more than ever before, and the need for care from an ageing population is also greater than ever. It means hospitals like this one are often stretched to the very limit. But can the system survive simply by making step-by-step changes?
We can't just carry on as we are. We can't just carry on trying to do more of the same. We need to really change how we go about things. The NHS is under huge pressure, not just in South West Wales, but across the UK. We can't keep doing how we did it 70 years ago.
So 15 miles west of Morriston, near the coast in Llanelli, could this former industrial site be a glimpse into the future?
It's going to create a completely new village, which the whole world will look at.
Why? Well, what's planned is an entire complex designed to keep as many of us out of hospital as possible. Using money that could be unlocked by the Swansea Bay City deal, council money and private investment, new parks, sports field and a leisure centre will be located here. There'll even be what's described as the world's first wellness hotel. But there'll also be a rehabilitation centre, a community care hub and care accommodation, so that those who need help can find it closer to home.
The whole idea is to put a lot more money into keeping people healthier and to educate from young children right through about how important it is to look after their health.
But the NHS would still need to be there when things go wrong. Under the plans collectively known as ARCH, Swansea's Singleton Hospital would become a centre of excellence for daycare and diagnostic tests. Morriston Hospital would concentrate on acute care of the sickest patients. And on 55 acres of land next door, a medical research campus will be built in partnership with the university, which will act as a magnet, it's hoped, for medical research, technology and drugs companies.
ARCH covers a population of 1 million people, 30,000 healthcare workers. That relatively homogeneous, stable population is a wonderful living laboratory test bed for innovation. And innovation is essential to solve the current challenges of the health service. So the university can be a conduit between the private sector and the monolith of the NHS. If we were to give you the impression that this is a smooth journey, I think we would be misleading you. This isn't easy. However, the prize is just enormous.
But many who live further west than Swansea have long complained of rural hospitals losing key services to bigger towns and cities. But Hywel Dda Health Board, covering Carmarthenshire, Ceredigion and Pembrokeshire, and a key partner in the plan, says the benefits are likely to be spread across the region.
I'm not talking about shifting every service in this organisation. B, we know that we're spending money because we're spending a lot of money, a lot more money than we've got on locums. It's no longer about the geography of the place that attracts a young consultant. It's actually about the ability to have research and development, to be able to be innovative in the way that they deliver care models. It's never been done before. And we've tried, goodness knows, I've been in the health service 45 years. We have tried.
This bone in the middle is called your sternum. And you want to do
So
it
will
on the lower
these
half of the
sixth
sternum.
formers be the ones to help plug the gaps? They're learning firsthand in Morriston what working in the NHS could be like through a project supported by technology companies.
What I've seen has made me more certain that I want to go into midwifery.
I might go on to Swansea University and study there and then move on to the NHS here.
The history of Morriston Hospital, in a way, reflects the story of the entire NHS, gradually adapting to meet the population's needs, but facing ever-increasing pressures. The question is, without radical change, for how long can that continue?
And you can see more on that story from our health correspondent Owain Clark on our website bbc.co.uk/Wales News. It's been talked about for 7 years. Now, the developers who want to build a £425 million racing track near Ebbw Vale say they'll break ground there this spring. But first, they'll have to meet rigorous financial tests set by the Welsh Government. Ministers want assurances that the Circuit of Wales will provide value for money before it'll agree to be the guarantor for half the cost. So is the project a step closer? Here's our economics correspondent, Sarah Dickens.
This is the vision of what developers hope to bring to the hillside above Ebbw Vale. But this is still the reality. Empty land after years of planning, debate, delays and scrutiny. But after 7 years, it might have moved closer. It was back in 2011 that the plans were first unveiled for a racetrack, hotels and industrial units. Much needed investment and jobs for Blaenau Gwent. By 2013, the local authority had given planning permission. But the next year, questions were raised about how much public money would be tied up. But the developers said they had the private sector backers that they needed. There were also fears about the effect on the environment. That led to a public inquiry in 2015. Then last year, it became evident that the Circuit of Wales team wanted the Welsh Government to underwrite all of the private funding once the track was operating. And Edwina Hart, who was then the Economy Minister, said that meant the government would be carrying too much of the risk. The private banking firm Kleinwort Benson joined Circuit of Wales this September, acting as corporate advisors. Then the online broadcaster, the Extreme Sports Company, became a partner just last month. It plans to run adventure sports there, like BMX tracks, mountain biking and go-karting.
So what did the developers say it'll all mean? Well, 1,600 people would be employed while the site was being built, according to the company. Over the years, there's been talk of 6,000 jobs, but that would be a very long way down the track and only if industry did set up alongside the circuit. The company target is to attract 750,000 visitors a year from the UK and abroad, and they argue it would inject £50 million into the Welsh economy.
Today, the Economy Secretary, Ken Skates, made a statement to Assembly members. He told them Circuit of Wales has given him the information he asked for about financial backers and that it's now asking the Welsh Government to underwrite less than half of the private investment.
In terms of the due diligence process that will commence upon us receiving all of the information that will enable us to begin that process, we expect it to take place and be completed in approximately 4 to 6 weeks, which is a normal time frame for a project of this scale, upon which Cabinet will then be able to consider it.
All political parties back the project so long as the due diligence comes out in its favour.
Whilst I do understand the necessity for doing proper due diligence in proposals of this kind, this is a transformational project. If it succeeds, then it's going to completely transform the economy of Wales, certainly in the southeast and mid-Wales.
Circuit of Wales says it's working with Welsh Government through the scrutiny process and says it's looking forward to starting to build on the site this spring. But they might end up wishing they'd not suggested such a tight timeline. The due diligence could take longer than the expected 6 weeks and the project could fail the investigation, which could then throw up more questions. However, the project feels a step closer to becoming a reality than it has for 7 years.
Well, our political editor, Nick Savini, is in the Senedd. Nick, are ministers preparing to give this the go-ahead?
Well, they're certainly preparing to make a decision. I think, Jennifer, it's widely considered that this will be the third and final proposal put to them from the Circuit of Wales. I think the big problem in the past has been the mismatch between the rhetoric of the developers and the decisions made by the ministers. So the previous two proposals, there have been very bullish comments from the Circuit of Wales, only to be rejected from the Welsh Government. And I think it's fair to say that that mismatch is getting closer now. Ken Skate said in the Chamber this was the best of the bids that he'd received so far. But that said, the mismatch is still there. If you look at the statements from the Circuit of Wales, for example, today, it really gives an overwhelming impression of I's being dotted, T's being crossed, a confirmatory process. Contrast that with the Welsh Government statement, which talks about rigorous tests, fundamental questions about whether it would benefit Blaenau Gwent in Wales, and even includes a fit and proper person assessment of the directors. Now, that is standard practice for due diligence, but it is unusual to name-check it in a relatively short government statement. A reminder that ministers will have to decide not on what is being planned, but who's behind it as well.
So how long until a final decision on this?
Well, 6 weeks in terms of the formal process. It will go to the Welsh Government Cabinet for final approval. There are obvious political sensitivities here, most notably the fact that this will happen in an economically deprived part of Wales, and there's a hope, even an expectation that's built up in the local community that this will get the go-ahead. But I think it's fair to say that there is now a really serious attempt to address this real problem about the level of Welsh taxpayer underwriting, which has really proved such a huge problem in the years that we've seen the development of this project so far.
Nick Savini, thank you. Police investigating the fatal shooting of a man near Pwllheli say he died of a single gunshot wound to the head. 18-year-old Peter Colwell died in a pub car park in Llanbedrog in the early hours of Sunday morning. 4 of his friends were arrested but have been released on bail. Officers say the results of the post-mortem examination will help them reconstruct what happened. Gwent police are continuing to look for 2 men as part of the biggest drugs operation in the force's history. Raids were carried out across Newport yesterday in a crackdown on the supply of Class A drugs. 28 people have been arrested so far in an operation involving 300 officers. UK ministers responsible for farming have been criticised by the chair of the Assembly's Environment Committee for apparently refusing to engage in its Brexit inquiry. It comes after the Environment Secretary, Andrea Leadsom, rejected an invitation to appear before AMs, while Junior Minister George Eustace cancelled at 2 days' notice. The UK government says it's in regular dialogue with Welsh farmers. 30 primary school children have been treated after they developed a rash while swimming at a pool on Anglesey. Emergency services were called to Plas Arthur Leisure Centre in Llangefni this morning. None of the pupils from Ysgol Ysgeifiog are seriously ill, but the cause of the rash is not known. The centre has reopened, but the pool will stay shut for further testing. Despite an attempt by some shareholders to block it, an £84 million takeover of Dee Valley Water looks likely to go ahead. Staff and local politicians fear that Severn Trent Water will cut staff and increase bills. A High Court judge rejected an 11th hour challenge by hundreds of shareholders. Matthew Richards has the story.
At a meeting of Dee Valley shareholders last month, there were protests by those who felt Severn Trent Water would absorb the independent company, centralising administrative staff and ending the smaller-scale personal touches it offers. A Dee Valley Water employee bought 450 shares and handed them out to dissenters in an attempt to block the takeover. A High Court judge rejected what he called share manipulation.
It did seem a wonderful opportunity to provide a voice to the small shareholder. For many years we've been told we're part of a shareholding democracy. People have been encouraged to buy small shareholdings, but ultimately they may not be worth that much when it comes to a vote such as this.
180 people work for Dee Valley Water. Its bills are on average around 19% cheaper than those from Severn Trent. Among its 230,000 customers is this community-run leisure centre. With 500,000 litres of water in its pool alone, staff don't want bills to rise.
I'm concerned. Like I said, prices are the main thing for us here, and it's much easier if you've got a local office and a local company. And Dee Valley have already looked at their charity account to see if they can help us in other ways, so we wouldn't want to lose that connection.
But local politicians say they fear the worst.
It's a local company, very close to their customers. They know many of them. And now, of course, those services, many of them will become more remote, centralised at call centres over the border. So you're bound to lose that personal touch. So all told, I think it's bad news for the local customers, for the local staff working there, and certainly for the wider local economy of North East Wales.
Severn Trent Water has said it's pleased with today's decision. Dee Valley's objecting shareholders have expressed their disappointment and are considering an appeal. This last-minute bid proved fruitless to those hoping to try and oppose the takeover. Barring any appeal, the deal will go through on Friday. It's then up to Severn Trent Water to persuade both Dee Valley's customers and staff that the right decision was made. Matthew Richards, BBC Wales Today, Rostychlyn.
Still to come on the programme before 7 o'clock.
And what do you do now when you've done all of that?
These school children in Cardiff are being taught how to save lives. Assembly members consider whether to make these skills compulsory in all schools. And who would you pick at number 10 for Saturday's England game? Dan Biggar or Sam Davies? It's a tough call for the pupils at their old school. In around an hour's time, MPs will vote on the legislation that will allow the Prime Minister to trigger Brexit. The Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, has ordered his MPs to vote for the bill during its final stages in the House of Commons. But tonight, another Welsh Labour rebel has emerged, the Swansea West MP Geraint Davies. 7 others voted against the party line at an earlier stage. Our parliamentary correspondent, David Cornock, is at Westminster this evening. David, what can we expect tonight?
Well, this is a very significant moment, and Brexit after tonight will be just a little bit closer. The bill will overwhelmingly clear the House of Commons, still has to go to the House of Lords, but Theresa May thinks she's on course to trigger Article 50, start those formal divorce talks with the EU, give notice of them at least by the end of next month. Now, she's confident she can do that because Jeremy Corbyn has told Labour MPs to support the triggering of Article 50 and the start of those talks. Most Labour MPs will toe the party line, but last week around a quarter of them from Wales decided to rebel, including at least one front bencher. And tonight, as you say, there is another rebel, Geraint Davies, of Swansea, and there may be others too. And that's a political headache for Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader. He now has to embark on a reshuffle, and he has to find MPs who have either agreed to toe the line or are prepared to toe the line in future. So a political headache for the Labour Party, but good news for Theresa May.
David, thank you. Now, should life-saving skills be a compulsory part of the school curriculum? It's a question being debated by Assembly members. Conservative Susie Davis is calling for all children to be trained to perform CPR and to use defibrillators. St John's Ambulance is backing the move, saying many people in Wales wouldn't know what to do in an emergency situation. Nick Pallett reports.
Up and over, nice straight arms.
These Year 6 pupils at Birchgrove Primary in Cardiff learn life-saving skills in a weekly after-school club. It's been running for 4 years now, and their teacher says pupils have learnt vital skills.
We look at things like choking, asthma, pulmonary resuscitation, wounds, bleeding and shock. So they learn how to deal with all those different scenarios.
11-year-old Laura has already put what she learnt into practice.
Well, when we were on holiday, we went and my granddad, he fell on the step and hit his arm on glass. There was no glass on it, so I dressed it.
The young pupils are taught to perform CPR to the rhythm of a particularly apt song, Staying Alive. Every year in Wales, around 8,000 people suffer a cardiac arrest outside of a hospital setting. But here in Wales, there's only a 3% chance of survival, compared to around 50% in other parts of Europe. It's hoped that making it a legal requirement to teach basic life-saving skills to children, those shocking statistics, can be addressed. South West Wales Assembly member Susie Davis wants such training made compulsory, and she's the first AM trying to introduce a law under a new method known as a member's legislative procedure.
the equivalent of a private member's bill at Westminster.
And actually those few crucial minutes between being able to restore somebody's blood circulation and an ambulance arriving can literally be the difference between life and death. So why wouldn't we equip our population to have those skills?
Hit you hard between the shoulder blades up to 5 times.
The move has the backing of St John Ambulance.
I started first aid as a cub at 8 years old, and so I've done it from a very early age, and if I could do it, everybody else can do it. Doing something and helping is better than standing back and doing nothing.
And their airway is open.
A spokesman for the Welsh Government said learners in Wales are able to develop practical emergency aid procedures as part of personal and social education, which already forms part of the current curriculum.
Nick Pallett reporting. Tonight's sport now. Here's Thomas.
Jen, we start with some good news for Wales. Talupe Falatau will be available for the match against England, while wing George North and fly half Dan Biggar will be given time to prove their fitness. If Biggar is ruled out, then Sam Davies, who replaced him during the win in Italy, will be favourite to take over in the number 10 shirt. Whoever is picked, there'll be one Welsh school bursting with pride.
Who should play at 10? It's always been a big talking point. This year, Dan Biggar and Sam Davies are vying for the jersey.
Both play for the Ospreys and both used to live on the same street, about half a mile that way. Then both were pupils here, Gowerton Comprehensive. Now both are locked in a personal battle for that number 10 jersey.
Dan Biggar shone at an early age, captain throughout his teens. So too Sam Davies, 4 years his junior.
But who should start on Saturday? It's even dividing opinion here. Should it be Dan Biggar or should it be Sam Davies? This is the current crop of Gowerton pupils. What do they think?
And as you can see, the results, completely unscientific of course, pretty close.
So Dan Biggar's just won it, 11 against 7. So why did you pick Dan Biggar?
Because he's a really experienced player and he's a good kicker, like he proved last year in the World Cup. So I think he'll be good because he's played against England as well in the past.
Let's talk to Joel now. He is number 10 in year 10. Why Dan Biggar?
I think he's a very tactical player and he's good under the high ball. And it could be a risk to play Sam because it's a big game against England.
Well, Jacob is Sam Davies' biggest champion. Why do you think he should have his first start against England?
Well, we need to keep the generations coming through, and if we keep on picking Dan, then other players aren't going to come through and want to play for Wales.
Whoever starts, this will be one proud school.
I simply can't choose between them. They've both got their strengths. We've also got a conveyor belt of talent coming through. We've got other 10s, Phil Jones, Matthew Prothero, just left the school, have both played international level rugby at fly half. So the Gowerton tradition continues.
The Wales management will decide tomorrow. The defence coach says Saturday's opponents are the in-form team in world rugby.
You know, they've got a very, formidable attacking outfit. And but having said that, we've had the best defence at the last 2 World Cups. And if we get back to that sort of form, which I think we're slowly getting back to in defence, we'll be there to give them a game.
The pupils have spoken, a tough call for them, an even tougher call for coach Rob Howley tomorrow.
Wales netball captain Susie Drain says they need more consistency when they take on New Zealand again tonight at Ice Arena Wales after being hammered 92-27 last night. The Silver Ferns are ranked 2nd in the world. Wales are 8th and have never beaten them. After competing at 2 Olympics, 4 World Championships and 3 Commonwealth Games for Wales, Gemma Lowe is retiring from swimming. The butterfly swimmer was a European champion, part of the world record-setting 4x100 metre mixed medley relay team 3 years ago. The Cardiff Devils are aiming to book a place in the Challenge Cup final when they take on Belfast Giants tonight. The Devils trail 5-4 from the first leg. If they get through, they'll have home advantage for the final. It will be held at Ice Arena Wales next month. Talking of ice, it's going to turn colder over the next couple of days. Derek is here with the details. Hiya.
It sure is, Thomas. Yes, be prepared. We are in for a cold snap. Snow flurries in places too. Now, it's been a little bit cloudy in Llangollen today in Denbighshire, but nice and sunny in Milford Haven in Pembrokeshire. In fact, Milford Haven was the warmest place in the UK today, reaching 11 Celsius, 52 Fahrenheit. Mind you, tomorrow will be colder and colder still on Friday with an icy wind. Tonight then we have the odd light shower in Powys. Otherwise it's a dry story. Some cloud around, but clear in parts of the north and west, and colder than last night. Temperatures dipping close to freezing or below with a widespread frost. So here's the picture then for 8 o'clock on Thursday morning. A few degrees colder than today. Fairly cloudy in the northeast through Powys into the southeast of the country. Brighter and breezy, though, in the southwest. Should be clear and sunny in Aberystwyth. Sunshine too in Dolgellau and in Carnarvon. So, sunniest in the west tomorrow then. Elsewhere, more in the way of cloud. 1 or 2 snow flurries possible, but most places dry. And colder than today, breezier too. Top temperatures only 2 to 5 Celsius. In Blaen y Gwent tomorrow, cloudy. Maybe a snow flurry in Bryn Mawr, just above freezing in Abertillery. Dry and bright on Anglesey tomorrow, sunny spells and chilly, 4 degrees in Llangefni. And then tomorrow night, mostly cloudy, a dusting of snow in places too, especially on the hills in the east. Dry and clear in parts of the west. Now, Friday's chart shows a big high pressure over Scandinavia, and that means easterly winds for the UK. Those winds dragging even colder air from the near continent. So Friday, the coldest day of the week, bitterly cold in the wind. Snow flurries in places, but not amounting to much. The best of the sunshine in the west. We're in for a cold weekend, some dry weather, but also a few sleet and snow showers. The wind stronger on Sunday, making it feel very cold. Jen.
Thanks, Eric. And that's Wales Today. We'll be back with all the latest in our late bulletin. That's after the 10 o'clock news. But until then, from all of us on the programme, thanks for watching and do have a very good evening. Hwyl fawr i chi. Goodbye.